Well, we must really apologize to our viewing public for the slight mix-up in the alignment of our guest features. Yes, indeed, we're also going to talk about tobacco much later on in the show, but at this point in time, we'll be joined virtually by our next guest, who joins us from Delta State. A veteran sports broadcaster and executive assistant, Delta State's Governor on Sports Development, Mr. Harrison Ocholor, who is on the program this morning to talk about the performance of Delta State in the just concluded National Sports Festival, aka the Gateway Games in Abeokuta. Good morning to you, Mr. Harrison, and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me, and good morning to your viewers out there.
Now, it's no news that your state has been dubbed the winner of the just concluded National Sports Festival. I believe you're very much elated, but beyond the excitement, what's the strategy that saw Delta State emerge winner? Was it a blueprint laid down by your office? And how did you source for the best athletes to represent the state?
Number one, it's all about planning, years of planning, developmental strategies that has taken years. When I say years, right from 1999, when we had our governor, Chief James Ibori, on board, he put together a policy of discovering talents. That policy wasn't abandoned when Dr. Emmanuel Ubwan came on board as governor in 2007. That plan continued. Now, it will interest you to know that for development to progress, there must be a continuum. So that also happened in your Ocholor administration, 2015. He came on board as governor, and the plan, the strategy, the focus really was on grassroots sports development. That continued. And now we have our governor, 2 years now in office, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborowori. The strategy still continues that we must go back to grassroots sports development. That's the only way we can catch them young, we can nurture them, we can develop them to become world champions, we can develop them to become medal winners at the podium. So that's what we're doing in Delta, and that's what gave us, I believe, the victory we have gotten thus far as perennial winners of the National Sports Festival.
Now, this is a build-up from 1999 through dedicated talent identification from the grassroots. I'd just like to also look at the table, because the gap between Delta and second-placed team Bayelsa is quite a margin. On the table, Delta has been able to grab 122 gold, silver 95, and bronze 105. Now, the gap between them and Bayelsa is quite a mile. Even if you're going to compare the gold, the silver, the bronze, you're at least 30 to 40 points ahead of Team Bayelsa. This almost seems like a landslide victory. Do you believe that this gap is also a testament to the abilities of these athletes over time to stand out, not just in Nigeria, but comparatively across Africa?
Good question. First of all, as at the end of the Gateway Games, we gathered 126 gold medals. So that table will change. What you have now, it's way behind as to what is presently the final medals table. Ogun State came second with 95, and Bayelsa came third. So with 93 or so. But what I stay with Delta, because the reason we got way ahead of other states was because we participated in the entire 38 sports that featured in the National Sports Festival. We didn't leave to chance any medal in any of the sports. We've done that over the years, so nothing new. We had to tell ourselves that the only way we can let Nigerians understand how sports it's done, how sports is managed, is participate in all the sporting events. And we did that with a whole sense of responsibility, knowing that we must create a structure, a benchmark, a standard. And that's what we've done over the years. The structure, the benchmark, the standard, the focus, the direction, really, that every administration has brought to the table, including the present administration of Right Honorable Sharif Oborowori, is to set a recalibration, a re-engineering of sports at the grassroots level. So if you see the medals increase, it's as a result of strategic planning in all the sports. Now, what this means is that we go to the grassroots, discover the athletes, nurture them, groom them, train them, and of course, because if you talk about sports being my forte, I'll let you know that apart from discovery, you nurture. From nurturing, you have to now engage these athletes to elite level. It's from the discovering and the elite level, you talk about podium levels. So Delta State got it right from day one. When I spoke about 1999, they got it right when they now merged both discovery, endowments, talking about development and elite growth at the same time. Meaning you discover, you encourage, and you put them on the road to elite level. And that's why each time we go for the National Sports Festival, we do so well, we win medals, we leave other states behind, because that's our focus. That's the focus of all the governors that we've had in the past up to now.
Now, talking about identification, this is just the primary, or would I say the foundation to it. Having the right investments in sports infrastructure to also give these talents room to develop and groom has been one of the challenges many states have grappled with. I don't know if you'd care to itemize the number of sports facilities, stadia and the likes that have been created in the state since 1999 up until date to give them this much evident advantage.
Excellent. You understand that what most states do in terms of facility provision is that they just provide stadia with just your football pitch and your track, or sometimes without tracks, out and tracks. But what we have done in Delta since 1990 to date is that we provide multi-facility stadia. Now, this means that, like in Asaba, for example, in Ogwashoko, in Ughelli, in Ole, in O'Hara, in Warri, we have multi-facility. Now, what this means is that the facilities in these stadiums that government has provided over the years are not just for football alone, for track and field, which is athletics, for basketball, for the ball games now, for basketball, for handball, for volleyball, and of course table tennis, lawn tennis. Then you have your swimming events for swimming. Then it's progressive, it's expansive. So what Delta has done over the years is that as they provide these facilities, there's also the support facilities, like we have world-class Olympic sites, swimming pools. We also have what we call the rural facility where we discover areas for swimming, for example, in Obiaroko. So for me, that's the standard, where you take from local, you improve international. Now, in the case of athletics, please understand that we also have community stadiums. Now, these are what we call mini stadia in these communities where local coaches, government engages games masters and sports officials in the 25 local government areas, and what they do is that they constantly go discover talent, and we've used that opportunity. The local government, for example, they've been organizing, which I've been consultant for, the local government sports festival. Now, it will interest you to know that we're getting into the third edition of that. Now, let Nigerians understand that the favor Ophilis, the Ella Rakoben, the Success Omokoro, the Favor Asher, all the big names that have come out to represent Nigeria in athletics today, we are discovered in the Algon Local Government Sports Festival. So it's a thing of joy. So that's why we don't just dominate, we dominate in substance in ensuring that Nigeria sees Delta as the sports mecca, the sports destination. So this is where we are, and it's a continuous journey, and all of that supported by a strategic working plan of action, a document that this is where we are, this is where we should be, and this is where we will be short, medium, long term.
Now, Mr. Harrison, you've talked about some examples of athletes who are from Delta that have reached the pinnacle of their athletic career. My question, and one that comes to mind, is for new games. Yes, Delta participated in all 38 games or display at the Gateway Games, but for other forms of games that are not so prominent in Nigeria, like archery, has there been any strategic move by the Delta State government to get young Nigerians who have love for the sport actively involved?
Yes, one of such, you talk about archery. Apart from archery, I'll come back to archery, but I'll stay with canoeing and kayaking. Yes, I'll stay with canoeing and kayaking. The strategic plan of the Delta State government, because we mostly riverine, upland, lowland, is to now also discover. That's why in the Niger Delta Games, the first edition of the NDDC sponsored Niger Delta Games, we took part in all the sports, including canoeing. Now, you would understand that Nigeria is developing into a country where we're participating in virtually all sports. Who would remember, yes, history would no doubt tell us the story of Nigeria participating in cycling, velodrome cycling, first time in years in the Olympics. It wasn't there before. Now, it's because government sees sports no longer as a pleasure, as a hobby, but government now sees sports as an economy, a business. So on the part of Delta State, the administration of His Excellency, Right Honorable Sheriff Oborori, now begins to look at sports as a business. Now, for archery, for example, yes, we'll look at, there's a working document on the table which we are using now to expand our future participation in future National Sports Festival, Enugu coming up next, and of course other states that we host. What we're doing, and His Excellency is looking at focusing on things that, yes, while we are perennial winners in almost all the events we participate in, all the sporting events, let's focus on the new ones that we are traditionally used to, or our people are traditionally used to. Swimming, for example, because I remember, if you talk about swimming in Nigeria today, you will not stop talking about Delta State, Bayelsa, and others because of the riverine population. But again, for Delta, we are so focused because of the facilities we have, and government will still continue to provide. Now, for archery, for canoeing, for kayaking, water-based sports, even for diving, government still hasn't left nothing to chance. And all of this can only work with the active participation of the private sector. So government is focusing on that with the support of the private sector.
Now, and let's also talk about family support for the athletes as well. Notably, a number of the contingents are quite young, and it's coming at a time when there's been debates on the priority of students, academic-wise and sports-wise, and conversations around broadening our curriculum to allow for active participation in sports as a way of bettering the lots of students who might not be too academically sound. How has the state government managed these concerns on the part of families and parents in terms of talent identification and nurturing?
Excellent question. First of all, you will understand that whenever the sports festival, be it the National Youth Games, which is every September, and the National Sports Festival, which is usually November, December, it clashes with the school calendar. So on the part of the Delta State government, there's been a deliberate policy. First of all, I spoke about talent identification. Now, most of the time, when we identify these talents, we discover that there are youngsters who are still in school, secondary school, primary, secondary, less of the time, tertiary. But again, within the primary, secondary school brackets, what we do at that time is the after-school program. What the Delta State government has done over the years is an after-school program in ensuring that after school, with proper conversation with parents, that you must release your children for after-school programs. That has worked. That has worked in the sense that the coaches have now spent more time with the kids after school. Now, government has not forgotten the part of now sustaining that process in ensuring that the after-school program, sports program works. Now, under the Ocholor administration, which is now has come into the Sheriff Obori administration, there's been a deliberate policy in ensuring that schools organize what you call the inter-house sports. You and I participated in that a long time ago. Now, schools are encouraged to do so. Outside that, government no longer provides, or should I say, approves licenses to private schools if unless they do have sports facilities. Now, what this does for sports in Delta is that it's a two-way traffic. Delta State government on its part ensuring that talents discovered don't leave school, they stay within the school system, encouraged to participate in sports after school and even within school times where you have your game days in schools, and of course ensuring that private schools and even public schools have enough sports facilities to encourage young ones to take to sports. Now it comes to family engagement. Excuse me. It comes to family engagement where government also now encourages the parents to ensure that they talk to their kids about participating in sports. This is critical because it must start from home. I have had a conversation with several parents, not one, not two, over the years, and what they clamor for, just one recently, a lawyer, was talking about, hey, why can't government put together a football school? And he said, Harrison, you guys can do it. I said, yes, all of the things you're talking about must be private sector driven. Government provides the enablement for this to thrive, and the private sector is encouraged and enticed to come participate in the space. That's why the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the Renewed Hope Initiative looks at sport as a business, and that is the adaptation and domestication that Delta has done over time, even before this time, in ensuring that sports no longer is seen as a hobby, as leisure. Sports is now seen as a business. Delta becomes a destination where countries, states can come train their athletes. This is the vision, this is the focus of the more agenda of His Excellency the Governor of Delta State, Right Honorable Sheriff Obori, as we speak.
Well, you've coincidentally spoken on my next question in terms of intercollaboration across states with a model of replication. Now let's talk about remuneration and pay packages for coaches. You're a veteran in the business and quite rightly have received an appointment under the Governor Sheriff Obori administration. Are there any of other such opportunities for veterans, much like yourself? And in terms of the pay packages for coaches who dedicate their life service to grooming young talents, how would you compare their remuneration as against those of their counterparts across other states in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. I have not been to, for sure know a few of the states who do, most of the sports officials, coaches, technical officials are in the employ of the state government and state governments. So if you are a coach, you are in the employ of the state government, you're paid as at when due. Now, as far as encouraging the coaches and technical officials is concerned, government has not relate to this responsibility, ensuring that when the opportunities arise, and opportunities do arise, the coaches are sent on courses at the National Institute of Sports, even the athletes themselves. But it doesn't stop at that. Government at the moment is looking at all the areas where they can be what we call expansive remuneration in terms of encouraging further certification of these coaches and technical officials. And of course, the elite reward system. The elite reward system definitely looks after athletes who are within the employees, who are contract staff, and of course, who will retire in the future. So all of these are what we call short, medium, long-term planning for sports development. Now, what government, you spoke about intercollaboration. I'll come to that point now. You see, for government to get it right, you need the coaches, you need the technical officials, you need the athletes. So one needs the other. Now, government is alive to its responsibility, and we've been doing that, and they'll continue to do so. That's why we're winning sports festivals, really, because if we don't do our bit in providing rewards or rewarding excellence, hard work and dedication, the athletes will be encouraged to win medals for Delta State. Now, you spoke about inter-collaboration. I would expect that states within the regions, for example, the South-South, the Southeast, they should come look at what Delta is doing. Enugu is the next host. Enugu should come sit down with us, say, hey, you guys have been winning. How do that? Because looking at the medals table, if you go back to it, you see where Enugu is before the end, at the end of the Gateway Games. For them, hosting will be an opportunity to have facilities, build facilities, and of course, improve sports development in Enugu State. But in terms of interstate collaboration, interstate governmental collaboration for sports, Enugu State can come look at what Delta is doing to see where are you guys getting it right. They can look at what other states are doing and put what I call focused development for infrastructure. So you look at the table, for example, you go back to see where the likes of Lagos, FCT, or Akwa Ibom, 12 medals, you go back to from the 11th to the 20th, you see the other states. Now, it shows you that what most of the state governments are doing, I take Delta, for example, when you have a governor that has the interest of sports, the political will, the action, the direction and the focus and vision for sports, you'll find the states will do well. But when you find your governor just passively supporting sports, there is a challenge, and that challenge now will show on the medals table, because most of the states don't participate in all the 38 sports. They just pick a few of the sports and say, let's go participate. Because from when the National Sports Festival first started in 1973 in Lagos, the reason for the National Sports Festival was for unity. And apart from that, discovery of talent. Now, to surprise you, it may not be for some people, Delta State has continued to provide most of the athletes, sportsmen and women, that has represented Nigeria in the Olympics. For me, that's the beauty of what we have done so far, and kudos to the government and people of Delta.
Now, in closing, your projections onto the future. What do you foresee in the future for Delta State in Nigeria, owing to the fact that the National Sports Festival ought to be a tool of unity? How do you see this fostering unity going into the future?
Good question. Speaking as Harrison Ocholor, Nigerian, proud Nigerian, I want to commend the chairman of the National Sports Commission, my good friend and brother, Malam Shehu Diko, and my brother and friend, Ocholor, the DG of the Sports Commission, what they're doing. The focus is simple. We must bring Nigeria together through sports, make sports a business. Now, my vision and my focus and my wish as a Nigerian is that we should not run sports structureless. Most states are running sports structureless. This is what I mean. For you to run sports, you must have a structure. Now, what that structure does for you is will tell you how you run sports technically, how you run sports administratively, how you run sports on infrastructure level, and how you run sports on a financial level. So if you don't have all of this, you keep relying on government. Government has its plate full with other responsibilities. So if government would now look, all state governments can do that. I remember we did that in the Ibori administration. After some time, it fizzled out. But government can look at what you call the National Sports Trust Fund. What this does is that you encourage the private sector, IOCs, companies, banks, to invest in sports. Now you can sit down with the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the IRS, and the State Revenue Service at state level to now see, okay, for sports to thrive in the country and at the state level, there must be a certain percentage these companies must pay to government. Now, what that does is that money goes directly for sports, provision of sports facilities. It's not for government, it's for provision of, and to be managed by a trust fund or a sports infrastructure agency or a commission like you have in the UK, I have in Europe. So this is how it's done. This is my vision, this is my focus, so that your kid, my kid, other kids out there can have access to sports facilities stress-free.
Now, Mr. Harrison, quite remarkable points you have raised here with commendations to the National Sports Commission. Just before I let you go, away from Delta, this has been some sort of restructuring at the federal level where the government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has deviated away from having a Ministry of Sports to having a National Sports Commission. Do you think this is better policy formulations and monitoring on the part of governments across states and even for national interest?
Definitely. Over time, good question you asked, but let's go back to history a little bit. As a veteran broadcaster over the years, we advocated for a National Sports Commission and not a Ministry of Sports. The reason we did that over the years in making an argument as media people, sports journalists then, was that we need to have a commission with a structure that can manage sports better in terms of managing our athletes, our sportsmen and women, managing infrastructure, and bringing money from the private sector to the table. Now, what the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu-led administration has done under the renewed hope agenda of the government was to now, yes, give teeth, really, bite to the National Sports Commission. Now, what the commission is doing under the direction of Malam Shehu Diko and the Bukola Olabode as DG, chairman and DG respectively, is to ensure that sports no longer becomes the recreational thing that we all talk about or participating. Sports should now become a business. What this means is that, sectorially speaking, sports can bring money to the table for government at state level, at national level. It means that Delta, for example, if sports becomes a business, in terms of revenue generation, sports can bring in dollars, can bring in naira to the table for government. Medium, short, medium, long term. It means that sports becomes a business, run like a business, a limited liability company with boards of directors, just like you have in the NNPC Limited today, in the oil and gas industry. That's how sports should run. Now, this is the way it will succeed. Because I talk with this with a passion because it's something that we've talked about over the years. You set up the structure, you bring in experts, those of us with the expertise to say, now how would you want this to run? First of all, there must be a law because you can't run sports as an economy without a law. So it needs the legislative backing. So you put a draft law together, executive bill, we call it, you take it to the National Assembly or the state assemblies, they look at it and you not enact a law for sports to become a business. So what that means is that if government is going to take football serious, football becomes a business. If government takes swimming serious, swimming becomes a business. How does it become a business? You engage the private sector and, or even international football clubs, Ajax, AC Milan, PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, or AC Milan and all the likes to collaborate or partner with you for youth sports development.
Very true. Well, Mr. Harrison Ocholor, very vehement, very enthusiastic about this dream and the ambition of Nigeria to turn sports into a business. I must thank you for taking our time to once again celebrate your state Delta and also lay down the roadmap as to how it can be replicated across states. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, my brother.
Have a nice day.
Thank you.